Respond. Rise for Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to ask that during our moment of silence, there was a tragedy in Texas. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but there was a school shooting, and 14 children and their teacher were shot today. Just would like you, if we could, say a moment of silence and on behalf of their families and their loss. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I recommend the minutes pertaining to collective bargaining, NEA, ESP grievance, remain sealed.
So moved.
Oh, item was tabled.
Yes, that was tabled. Item 1 was
That's right.
tabled, yeah.
I recommend that minutes pertaining to an individual's job performance or character or physical or mental health of a person, pre-deprivation hearings, non-renewal of teacher contracts remain sealed.
So moved.
Been a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second
Second.
by Ms. Liguori to the minutes pertaining to individual job performance remain sealed. Those in favor? That looks like that was you. Thank you. Number 3.
I recommend that minutes relating to the privacy of students and their records, approval of home instruction requests remain sealed.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second by Mr. Liguori, that the minutes relating to private students and their records remain sealed. Those in favor? Any opposition, refusals, or abstentions? No, that was unanimous. Thank you.
I recommend minutes pertaining to the collective bargaining NEA SPA negotiation update remain sealed until such time as an agreement has been reached.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion and a second by motion by Ms. Callahan, a second by Ms. Liguori, that the minutes pertaining to collective bargaining NEA ESPA negotiation update remain sealed until an agreement has been reached. Those in favor? Abstentions, recusals, or yeah. Okay, thank you. Number 5.
I recommend that minutes pertaining to the collective bargaining NEA certified staff negotiation update remain sealed until such time as an agreement has been reached.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second by Ms. Liguori, that the minutes pertaining to collective bargaining NEA certified staff negotiation update remain sealed until such time as an agreement has been reached. Those in favor? Looks like that's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Callahan, you're doing the,
I will.
yes,
Thank you.
sir.
So disclosure of executive session votes. The first vote was to table a grievance hearing. There were 10 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. Those in favor: Callahan, Liguori, McAllister, Lyles, Spears, Day, Reynolds, Chambers, Macruso, and Abbott. The second vote was related to pre-deprivation non-renewal. There were 9 in favor, 1 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. Those in favor: Callahan, Liguori, McAllister, Lyles, Spears, Day, Reynolds, Chambers, and Abbott. Those opposed: Macruso, and thank you for that vote. The third vote was approval of executive session minutes related to home instruction requests on May 10th. There was 10 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. Those in favor were Callahan, Liguori, McAllister, Lyles, Spears, Day, Reynolds, Chambers, Macruso, and Abbott. The fourth vote was related to home instruction requests. There was 10 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. Those in favor were Callahan, Liguori, McAllister, Lyles, Spears, Day, Reynolds, Chambers, Macruso, and Abbott. The fifth vote was for approval of executive session minutes on May 10th related to NEA ESP negotiations. And that was 10 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. Those in favor, Callahan, Legori, McAllister, Lyle, Spears, Day, Reynolds, Chambers, Mac Russo, and Abbott. Sixth and final vote was to close executive session, return to open session. There were 9 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions, 0 recusals. Those in favor, Callahan, Legori, McAllister, Lyle, Spears, Reynolds, Chambers, Mac Russo, and Abbott.
Thank you, Mr. Callahan.
You're welcome.
Okay. Yep.
Recognition. Please join me in congratulating the following. Class of 2022, valedictorian Bridget Fox and salutatorian Hannah Jackson. Nice job. Ian Clark took first place in both the 100 and the 200 in the Southern Division Track and Field Championship on May 14th. He was named the track MVP of the championship. Ian broke the Class B meet record in the 200. Meet record time 22.77, was first in the 100, and was part of the record-setting first-place relay team. His meet record time was 44.55 with Dakota Thompson, Colin Fitz, and Eli Spazzato at the Class B championships last Saturday. Eli Spazzato finished first in the 400 and the high jump at the Southern Division Track and Field Championship and was part of the record-setting first-place relay team at the Class B championships. Rico Thompson took first place and improved her school record in discus and also placed first in the shot put at the Southern Division Track and Field Championship. She won the shot put and finished second in the discus at the Class B Girls Track and Field Championship last Saturday. Erin Van Hoosen won the 1500 and improved her record at the Southern Division Track and Field Championship. She finished second in the 3000 at the Class B Championship. Congratulations to all. Nice work.
Good job. So this is the time on our agenda with public forum. So anyone who'd like to speak on items that are not on the agenda, please come forward, introduce yourselves, and give us your name and where you're from. I saw a hand raised. Okay, come on forward.
My name's Elaine Ritchie. I'm a resident of Charlestown, Rhode Island. I have 2 children, one in the middle school and one in the high school. I also I wasn't expecting to do this, but for recognitions, the Charahoe Girls Middle School softball team came in first division for the Southern Division for their softball this season.
All
So,
right.
yay for them. And they just won their first playoff game today. So that's cool. So I'm just here. I spoke back at the March school committee meeting regarding bullying. And it was noted at that meeting that it was going to be placed on the agenda for this May. I noticed it wasn't on last agenda and it's not on, today's agenda. My concern is things have not gotten better, and I'm sure you may be aware of a video that has gone around with an altercation with an 8th grade student in Mr. Zenyon. If I've seen the video is pretty much everywhere. All the students in the middle school have seen this video. It's an issue. It's a concern. I know the school committee, the school budget didn't pass, and I know that's a concern, but this is a concern. It's a concern for our students, and clearly it's a concern for the administration and our teachers. So I really would like and hope that this is a priority for the school committee meeting, and if we have to get parents involved, students involved to kind of help this, it's really important. And so I just wanted to voice my concern and hope that it will be addressed, especially before next fall, especially, on the news, Texas. It's an issue that's not going away. And I just hope we just don't keep pushing it aside. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. I guess we'll move on to the policy.
Public forum policy. This item was requested by Mr. Day, as his policy was in conflict with the committee's rules of conduct pertaining to the amount of time provided for speakers during public forum. I recommend approval of the revisions to the policy.
So moved. Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan and a second by Ms. LaGorri to approve the public forum policy as revised. I open this up to discussion and or input from the committee on this policy. Anything? Mr. Day, do you know, I know you spoke, you and I spoke on the phone.
No, I just think maybe possibly you might want to just
Go over it.
go over the couple of things that is going to change
Right.
going
So
forward.
if, I don't know if you've seen it, if you've seen the packet and stuff. So some of the things that will be added to the public forum policy, if it is voted on today, is we're going to ask that people sign in if they want to speak during public forum. And there's a number of reasons. One is that we want to know how many people wish to speak, because we may adjust our, the amount of time that we need for that public forum. And also that might adjust the amount of time that we might think about giving someone. If we have 30 people who want to speak, maybe we'll each give them 30 minutes, but if we have 2, then we have a little more time to let them speak on the matter that's of importance to them. So we're going to, and also, and plus 2, that's good for Donna, because then she has a record of who the person was and where they're from and who, and their name, which is helpful when she's doing her notes. And that's about, if there's something if someone brings up something during public forum and the school committee is very, wants to discuss it further, we can put it on future agenda items. And that could be asked at the end of the meeting, like we do now when committee members will ask for future agenda items. And sometimes that's based on some things that people say at public forum. So, and that just would be a vote that we would take to put that on the next agenda. That's pretty much it. So that's it in a nutshell. Yes, sir.
So I'm in favor of this. I guess I'm just wondering, so, okay, all persons wishing to speak, they have to sign in. What if they're running late? What if they change their mind? What if they're moved to speak during public forum based upon somebody who's going in front of them? I'm assuming that this not being on the sign-up sheet doesn't preclude them from participation, but that it doesn't give them the prioritization that the sign-in sheet
I wouldn't,
affords.
yeah, I agree. I don't think we'd not
Okay.
want to have someone not speak. I think it's just a way of kind of getting an idea of who would speak.
Okay.
This is on, we don't have to have the sign up. This is something that is in our code of
I'm on board with it. I think it
Okay.
helps the chair establish time constraints and those kind of things and manage it effectively. I just want to make sure that people, they're
I don't
not
think it's going
denied
to
an
happen
opportunity
overnight.
to be.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to practice it like we do a
Okay.
lot of things. So it may take a while or a couple of meetings before we get good at it. So I'm hoping that if we just keep encouraging people to sign in, it might become just part of our regular routine. So,
Thank you.
Ms. Matt Russo.
Sure. A few questions for
Sure.
discussion, Chair. So this is written up as policy, right? Different than guidance or procedural. So one suggestion that I make is along with the sign-in, I think that we should have copies of this policy available to the public so that when they sign in, they can take this away and then have the opportunity to review it as they are gathering their thoughts and thinking about their presentation with an opportunity to perhaps adhere to this if they otherwise had not prepared to do so. So I think if we're going to do this, it's the type of policy that needs to be communicated, noted, openly shared, super transparent, and available for the public so that we can implement this in good faith.
Yes, I agree. That's a good idea.
That being said, a policy does need to be implemented, again, different than guidance. So I need to understand how we're going to ensure as a committee that each citizen who's making a public statement is presenting facts and not gossip or rumors as written here, is presenting information based on personal knowledge, not hearsay, and is accurate. I'm not sure how we vet that. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. And then my last comment is the number 3, the extension, I think is important. And I like that it would be granted by a majority vote because that I think also helps to decentralize the pressure from the chair,
I
whoever
like
the chair
that.
may be,
Mhm.
and make it really a unified decision. So that's great.
Okay.
So I think we need to disperse this openly at every meeting, have copies. I like number 3, but I definitely, before I vote in favor, need to understand how we will vet 1, 2, and 3 from the beginning.
I'm open. Yes.
That's a great question. I think that the way I interpreted this is that it establishes responsibilities for those who intend to engage publicly. And then item number 4 at the bottom, the school committee may provide a brief response or place an item for full discussion on a future agenda. I saw that as a way to maybe tactfully challenge things that are maybe, that fall into rumor or the category where we don't think that they're as accurate as they could be. That's how I interpreted it. So
Is that how you would enforce that?
To be honest, I took the 2 policies, the one that was in existence and the one that was the conduct, and tried to meld them so that we were following, it was in line. So I think that is, I agree with Ryan. I think that that's a way that we can, if we thought that we needed to put something on the agenda, we could actually decide to do that and then address it at a future meeting. It makes sense. Yes.
All right, last comment on this.
Yes.
So I think Ryan's response to my inquiry is satisfactory. I think that we need to consider some professional development for the
Okay.
school committee around how to thoughtfully engage with our citizens when we feel that 1, 2, or 3 is in question, and that we're going to move that to an item for consideration and further research, and how that's going to be done.
I think it's great.
I think we really need to understand that. One of the lessons that was learned from the Buffalo massacre is the danger of misinformation being allowed to be spoken of. So I'll support this, but contingent upon that we continue to discuss as a body how to actually do this in a way that holds us all to these standards.
And I'd be happy to work with, Superintendent Picard, and maybe we could find either someone that might be able to do this either through, I don't know, RIASC or somebody.
It might be John.
It
might
could be John
to
too.
be able
Yeah.
to help us
Yeah.
guide us.
Good idea. Mr. Day, did you have your hand raised? I thought I saw.
Yeah, I was just gonna state, that we've trusted the individuals for a number of years to follow 1, 2, and 3 here, because nothing of this has been changed. And the best that we can do is hope that that people come in with accurate information, and if a committee member knows that what they're trying to relay is not the truth, then we can ask, hopefully, the chairperson to rule them out of order and shut them down. Because there will be times when someone will come in with some, tinfoil hat on and a witch's broom, and try to sell us on something. And if we know it's not anywhere near the truth, then you have the right to rule them out of order.
This chair, sure. Okay. Thank you all. Any other input or questions? No? Okay, I'll take that to a vote. Those in favor of approving this public forum policy? Thank you. Any abstention? No recusals? No abstention? That was unanimous. Thank you so much. And that was all really good information. So, work on that.
yeah, Chair, make a motion to table secondary grading policy revision.
May I have a second on that? Thank you. There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan and a second by Mr. Legori to table the secondary grading policy revision to a later date. If by chance there's anyone here that came just specifically for that, we will put this on a future agenda item. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to any one of us or Gina or Ms. Picard about this particular policy. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Table. Oh, okay, those in favor? Sorry, he's looking at me like. Okay, so that was unanimous. That will be tabled for a later date. Yes, sir.
Chair, make a motion to table home instruction policy revision.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second by Mr. Legori to table the home instruction policy revision. Any discussion on that? No. Those in favor? table it to a later date. Ms. Macaruso, that was okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that was unanimous. Thank you. On to business.
First item under business is field trip request. I recommend approval of the following contingent upon compliance with policy. Request of the FFA advisors, Stacy Pepper and Christine Havarack, for 1 student and 2 chaperones to travel to the FFA National Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana, from Tuesday, October 25th through Friday, October 28th, 2022.
So moved.
There's been a motion and it's by Mr. Callahan, a second by Ms. Legori to approve the request for the field trip for 1 student, 2 chaperones to the FFA National Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana. That's exciting. Yes, do you have a question?
Is Stacy here? No.
No?
Okay. So I have 2 questions that could probably be answered pretty easily. 1 student, 2 chaperones? What's the deal on that?
Typically, it's because if one adult would get injured or sick, there's another adult present. So this way, the student, there's 2 adults to support.
For 1 student?
Correct.
Okay. Well, that still doesn't make sense to me, but that's.
It's also
that's
for
the way-
liability concerns so that there's another
Okay.
adult present.
And also, the student will have graduated. That's the way I read this. Wait a minute. The student whose name is, wait a minute. Oh,
Yeah.
where is it? The student it says that she's a 2022 graduate.
She will, yes, will be.
So this is happening in October
The event was moved to October.
and she will have graduated, but she's still considered a Charahoe
She received it
student.
as a student while she was a student, correct.
Has that happened before?
Yes,
yes,
my
Dr.
understanding is
Fitzgerald.
it's happened before.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
she's,
The way the convention is planned.
oh, anyway,
Ms. Legori?
Well, I just want to
Yeah.
follow up on that. I didn't pick up on that. So we're chaperoning someone who's not a student,
And who's an adult?
Or a child.
Yes. she's an
probably not a
adult.
child either, right?
So, right,
Yeah,
but
right.
it's
She's
based
18.
on my understanding is the requirement of the FFA and the way that they run. This is the national convention, so there's the regional.
Right. So they're dictating that the chaperone must
It's
attend.
my understanding, but I can follow up. We can table it and I can get the information and ask Ms. Pepper to come.
I might also be interested in just hear what John thinks about us sending a chaperone for someone who's presumably 18 and not a student any longer.
We have done this in the past. It's
Okay.
because they hold the convention in the
Later.
fall and they get the award in the spring. It's probably for our own liability. They're still covered under our insurance, so our staff is.
The student's still
responsible.
covered under our insurance?
Yeah, we're taking, if you approve this trip, you're approving the liability.
We're not approving it yet.
Yeah, it's a school-sponsored trip.
Donna?
I would like
And
the
then Mr. Day.
superintendent to look a little deeper into this. And I don't know when it has to be approved, when reservations have to be made and all that, but I
Yeah,
mean.
typically
we-
they do it sooner for you so that they can begin to plan the reservations, correct? They need the approval from the school committee.
Anyway, I would like it to be looked at a little closer because I'm a little concerned that we're paying 2 chaperones to go with, as Gary said, go with a student who's not a student here any longer.
Who's presumably an
18.
adult? Yeah.
Just
Good.
for clarification, this is fundraising, right?
Right.
So this is field trip is funding sources through fundraising.
Correct.
It's completely fundraised. There's no money that's out of pocket for the school district.
Doesn't list anything here. It says fundraising /
Well,
SAF.
And it could be from the student activity account for the
Okay.
students when they fundraise, as well as part of Jerry's grants for the categorical.
Mr. Day had his hand up. Mr. Day?
Yes, FFA has been a long-standing tradition here at Charahoe, and to have someone who was chosen to go and represent the state of Rhode Island and Charahoe, I think is a very feather in our cap. So I don't really understand, but if we can postpone it temporarily, I really don't understand what difference it makes there. We've, as Donna said, we've had a history of helping students out by chaperoning trips here and there all over the country that have deserved the recognition that they'd be getting. So do what you got to do, but I'm really opposed to not supporting this tonight.
So I want to be clear, I don't not support FFA or the
That's
students.
true.
I find it curious that we are listing it as chaperones for someone who's over 18 and no longer enrolled in the Charahoe schools. And I want to make sure we're not
That's
crossing
right.
a line there and doing things that we necessarily shouldn't support.
Then
I
you're
know it's
asking
been
for a
done
legal
before.
opinion.
What's
You're
that?
asking for a legal opinion then.
Yes.
That's a whole different ballgame than what you said earlier.
No, it's not.
Because I never heard you say you wanted a legal
I
opinion.
didn't use those words, but I
I know.
asked
Okay.
explicitly why we're sending a
Okay.
chaperone for an 18-year-old student who's no longer enrolled in the school.
Thank you, Ms. LaGuardia. Okay, Donna and then Lisa.
Yeah,
Donna?
and I reiterate what Gary just said. I am not supporting this activity. I think it's great. I'm just concerned that we are sending two chaperones, as he said, for a child who is, well, a child who's not a child, who's 18, and no longer a student here, and what precedence is that setting? And it may be an FAA may be okay with that, the conference may be okay with that, but, you know, what precedence are we setting then? To have graduates come back and be representing Charahoe in future activities. Anyway, I think it needs to be questioned.
Lisa?
My questions are specific for when you bring this back. So again, I won't, similarly, I won't vote to approve tonight, more to table or revisit. My two questions would be, in addition to what the other members have mentioned, will the FFA allow the student to compete without Charahoe personnel present? So that's very important. Could the student go independently and compete, or are they requiring that Charahoe representation be present? That's very important to me. Secondly, given that there's two adults and three adults, are we mandating that the student, quote, share a room, or will that student have their own independent hotel room? And that's important because if that's the case, then our liability doesn't make sense.
Right.
So either we have to supervise them or we don't. And I'm not comfortable insisting that teachers room with students.
Right.
So that also does in no way come together for me.
So if I can add to that, Lisa, one of the parts that makes me uncomfortable is using the term chaperone.
Right.
So if FFA is saying that they need to be there, that's fine. But they're being there to support the student, not to chaperone the student, right? I don't see how we
Important
can
distinction.
chaperone someone who's over 18. That's one of my big points here. That really doesn't make sense.
That's another
So,
issue.
so Superintendent Picard, if you could come back with that, that would be
Yeah.
helpful.
I think we need to,
Yeah, so I hear enough.
yeah,
I
okay,
withdraw my motion.
thank you.
And myself.
Someone second that? Gary, you
withdraw.
second it. Okay. So,
Make motion to table?
and Gary seconded it.
To table.
I'll second
Yes,
that.
the table.
Okay, those in favor of tabling it till Superintendent Picard can, thank you. Okay, and Mr. Day is opposed to it. Thank you, Mr. Day. That was interesting. Okay. Oh, now the CSIP.
Next item is the Comprehensive School Improvement Plan Grant for Charahoe Alternative Learning Academy. Katie Karakojian will provide an overview. I do recommend approval to submit the Comprehensive School Improvement Grant for CALA to RIDE's Office of School Improvement in the amount of $109,821.38 for the period of October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Thank you. Second, thank you. There's been a motion by Mr. Callie and a second by Ms. LaGuardia to approve the grant for CALA in the amount of $109,821.38.
And Director Bright Teacher is here to begin the presentation along with staff member from CALA, Danielle Bruno.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Tatro. I'm the director of the Charahoe Alternative Learning Academy. I'd like to walk you through some information on the school and some of our highlights from the last 2 years. So we are an alternative school. We have approximately 65 students, grades 1 through 12. 75%, or roughly around there, of our students qualify for IEP or 504 plans, and about 30% of our students take at least one class at one of the other buildings on campus. We have 10 teachers, 7 behavior management assistants, and 5 clinicians. So something everyone needs to understand is that we have 2 programs in the academy. So one of them is the alternative learning program, and the other is the clinical day program. The elementary clinical day program is located at the Ashaway Elementary School. So the ALP is a general education program for students in grades 7 through 12, and the students have to go through an application and interview process to be admitted. Some of the unique components include small classes, one-to-one learning opportunities, project-based learning curriculum, and frequent family contact. So as opposed to CDP is a self-contained special ed program, and students are placed there through an IEP team decision. And surrounding school districts also utilize the clinical day as a more restrictive placement, similar to a Bradley school. Some of the special services provided by the CDP, on top of all the supports offered by the ALP, involve the biggest one is probably the clinical component, where the students and the families have access to services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Each student also has a special ed case manager and a BMA supporting them throughout the day. So some of our highlights in the last 2 years. Last year we graduated all 7 eligible students, and this year we anticipate another 6 students who will be graduating this June. We've also made some comprehensive improvements at the Ashaway site, and we've enhanced the courtyard space, which I would invite everybody to come and take a look. And we're most proud of the recognition we just received by the governor and the Department of Ed for our improved test scores. I believe we're the only school in the district to get this award this year, so I'm very proud of that, and all credit goes to the hardworking teachers and students. And now I'm going to hand the presentation over to Ms. Bruno, who will walk you through some of the ways our interventions have been implemented.
Hi, my name is Danielle Bruno. I teach both with the Clinical Day program and the Alternative Learning program here at the CALA program. We've really worked with multiple interventions. So these are just a few of our overarching highlights that have been just really great to see, and our kids have really taken to. One of them includes our Chill Mentoring program. We also have an after-school tutoring program that's really been instrumental to allowing some of our seniors who really need some extra time and extra support to make it over the finish line for graduation. We work with a health and wellness coordinator, a job coach program that has really helped our students develop some of those job readiness skills that really translate to the workforce. We've also partnered with multiple alternative learning schools across the country, trying to develop a professional learning community. And the staff as a whole has really worked on developing our skill set around project-based learning. Project-based learning within the CALA program is standards-based, very hands-on. We are very intentional to create a cross-curricular opportunity with multidisciplinary options. And we've been working quite hard with community-based. And some of the pictures that you see right there are actually our kids in the CALA courtyard building their own courtyard. So that is really translating to that pride in the space that they have. We've also worked with the greenhouse here on campus. This is an aquaponics project. We've been working on a multi-year food sustainability project. So the kids right now are actually developing their own internal aquaponics system, working with our math and science teachers, trying to develop a way to create their own food and create their own garden. This is some of our final projects within the CALA program, and you'll notice that chair looks a little funky, so I'm going to explain a little bit about it. That chair, the Adirondack chair, is a math project that the kids created. So they did all of the building, all of the measuring, and they actually went from a small ratio to a larger one. I don't teach math, unfortunately, so I might not be using the right words there. But when they finished it, one of the kids said, you know, I saw something called hydro dipping. And we said, oh, we don't know what that is. So as a community, we actually researched it and we found out how to do it. And that was our first attempt at hydro dipping. One of the things that we found out is that we actually do need a bigger bucket in which to hydro dip, which is why part of that chair is actually undone. So one of the things that's interesting about it is it really does represent that holistic learning that we're trying to do. That failure is an expected outcome at times, so we can go back to that drawing board. We've also done a good amount of community-based learning, trying to get involved in that Rhode Island community and draw those skills directly back to where we are. One of the things that we did is we went to Fort Adams using history, science, and math to create our own video. The students were able to measure different parts of the fort and then recreate it to scale. They also created their own video of the experience and gave their own script going along with it. They then edited that work as well. I'm going to play about half a minute of that for you right now. This may be really loud. It was a little bit loud before.
The ship you are looking at is named after Oliver Hazard Perry. He was born in South Kingstown in 1785, but he was most noted for his role in the War of 1812 during the 1813 Battle of Lake Erie.
At this point in time, we were measuring the perimeter of the fort in order to build a scale model. You are now looking at the east wall of the fort that measures over 462 feet.
One of the things that's particularly notable about that is that the amount of courage it took our students to actually get up and record themselves was just really nice to see. It's very hard for our students to find the courage to actually record both their voices and their physical pictures, and the amount of time and effort that they put into it was really great. We actually had to put a limit on the number of times that you could record yourself, even if you made a little mistake. One of the ways that we've been able to do some of these exciting projects is actually through the new equipment that we've been able to get through the CSIP grant, including the CALA vans. Having access to a 3D printer has allowed us to create some of these scale models. The GoPro camera you actually saw being recorded so the kids can document their projects, and an aerial drone actually got used in partnership with a URI gardening group, which I unfortunately wasn't part of that project, but I know that they've been working with them as well.
So good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to present. Again, my name is Katie Kirakosian, and I'm the Development Officer for the district. It's been my distinct pleasure to serve as the Program Manager for CALA's CSIP work the past 3 years as well. What I'm about to present is the work of many, and I want to start by recognizing our CALA Community Advisory Board, or CAB, made up of parents and community members and school-based team members, including administrators, teachers, and BMAs. So again, I am presenting on CALA's CSIP and funding request. This is due to ride May 27th, and we are eligible, as already mentioned, for a request up to $109,821.38. This CSIP would span the 12-month period starting October 1st, 2022, and closing September 30th, 2023. CALA's CAB began this work in 2019 by crafting 3 goals, which you see here. These include an increase in four-year graduation rate, an improvement in students' ELA and math achievement and growth, and a commitment to ensuring CALA students feel connected, respected, and valued. From these three goals are 5 interventions, which is where the work really happens and for which our funding is needed. So I wanted to just take a moment to review our interventions that have specific funding needs in my next slides. Intervention A is focused on a multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS. A great deal of work was done here through previous CSIP funding requests to craft and hone this system for CALA students. This system has been up and running for 2 years and includes weekly meetings for student data review and goal setting. No MTSS specific funding is needed for this coming year. Our 2 requests connected to this intervention include a continuation of a program manager and the continuation of after-school tutoring to be facilitated by CALA teachers. Intervention B relates to 2 initiatives: the continuation of the Chill Mentoring Program and the Job Coaching Program through a partnership with Junior Achievement. More specifically, we would offer 2 stipended positions for these initiatives. Through the Job Coaching Program, we also propose to offer small stipends to a modest cohort of interested juniors and seniors who successfully complete an internship next school year. Intervention D focuses on diverse learning and project-based learning, and as you can see from this very long list, has been a rich area for improvement work at CALA. We propose to continue registered behavior training, or RBT, work with BMAs. We also propose to continue project-based learning lesson studies and plan for PBL supply needs as well. We would like to offer a 1-day optional PD for teachers on PBL, as well as a second optional day for both teachers and BMAs that ties project-based learning to graduation pathways for CALA students. And to preface number 6 in this list, last year, research was started to explore high-performing alternative schools. Through this process, connections have been forged with partner schools in the region and nationally. We would like to continue and strengthen this work next year. Adding to this, we want to offer opportunities for CALA teachers and BMAs to lean in on topics and issues of mutual concern outside of contractual time through a community of practice next school year. We plan to also continue the micro-credentialing work begun this school year, as we know that real and impactful change does not happen overnight. We would like to continue the trend of sending a CALA contingent to a national conference, this time the Innovative Schools Summit Conference in Texas in December. The idea of a culture camp came from a trip to an innovative school in California last year, the Da Vinci Rise School. For CALA's culture camp, all students and staff will attend a challenge course at URI at the start of the school year to set the tone and plan ahead for another year of learning and growth. Also, while we have made many improvements to our courtyard, we're also requesting funds to create another space to allow for the flexibility needed with project-based and outdoor learning. Lastly, to do all of this, as you can imagine, we will need to employ substitutes and/or coverages to support all of this work next year. Last but not least, Intervention E focuses on social emotional learning and health and wellness. Here we seek to continue a stipended position with an SEL health and wellness coordinator, make outdoor improvements to the elementary program, and support their school store where students can cash in earned points through their point-level token economy system. Finally, we would like to purchase SEL-related supplies and allow for experiential trips and diverse enrichment opportunities that connect to our curriculum and associated standards. So thank you again for your time. CALA's Director, Brian Tatro, CALA teacher, Danielle Bruno, and I are happy to address questions on this work and our CSIP funding requests if you have any.
I know. Mr. Abbott, you have a question for Katie?
Where
or-
will the funds come from for these positions?
This submission is going to be going to RIDE, and it is federally funded through 1003 funds. So it would not be coming from the local district, but
Okay.
through this funding
That's
through
what I
RIDE.
want to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gay?
Yes, I see this as a grant for 1 year. What, if anything, will we be required to fund out of the local districts in the future years. You want to hire a job coach, you want to hire a chill thing, program manager. There's people you want to hire. Are we going to be obligated to carry these people in future budgets?
And that's an excellent question. These are all stipended positions. So these are for existing staff to take on additional work. This is now the 4th year of funding that we've received. And if and when this funding goes away, we just would either find creative ways with an existing school budget, within the school's budget, CALA, to support some of the work, including supplies. But I see no direct impact for us to sustain this work moving forward. I will say as well that some of the examples of equipment that were mentioned, like the CALA van, some of the improvements that we've made to the courtyard with new powder-coated tables, for example, have been quote unquote one-time purchases. So not something that we would necessarily need to purchase year after year.
Well, I support the program. I just want to make sure that we're not tied into forever funding of programs that we're having a difficult time now with budget processes now. So that's I believe the answer to my question, and we'll find out a year from now.
Yeah, and this is ongoing grant work. So every year, RIDE, based on CALA's status, they receive the grant, and then we provide the new proposal to be able to enhance. And the idea is very similar to CALA, is to build the capacity of the staff currently to be able to develop the program and enhance it.
Lisa, Ms. Macrobuso?
So I have just a comment and then a question. So I appreciate that Danielle, is she still here? So I love that your tone is one of opportunity and privilege to teach, and the way that you presented that the kind of this thread of the Terre Haute Alternative Learning Academy, right, is that failure, you said, is an expected outcome, right? And that is threaded through the curriculum and the presentation, the education, that failure is part of the benchmarking of life to get to that success. And I really appreciate the programmatic work and where this school is now because of all that you're doing, the three of you and the rest of the team. So it's such an honor to just listen to this presentation for the program piece of it. I also really like that when you spoke of the students, you did it with like respect and dignity. And even when you spoke about their challenge to get on camera, the tone of how you're presenting is that the value and the ownership belongs to them and not the teachers, even though we all know how important your work is. So just great presentation. My only question, and you have my full support on this, is on the 3 goals. So the graduation rate and the achievement and growth are quantifiable, right? Very easy to do so. How are you measuring goal 3, which is here, that ensuring that students feel connected, respected, and valued? So I can feel it, and that's why I said all that I said to you. I feel it, I know it, but how are we measuring that our students are in fact feeling connected, respected, and valued at Terre Haute?
I can speak to one point related to that, and I know that it is also quantifiable in terms of our schoolworks and our panorama results.
Your what? I'm sorry.
Our schoolworks and panorama
Okay.
results, where the students reflect on a multitude of questions. Some of them do connect to that. So we're reviewing that data every year and seeing, great improvements in many areas. So that's how we're quantifying that.
Great. And actually, CAL's participation in survey works is one of the highest in the district.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Adonis?
Yeah, I just want to voice my thanks and gratitude for your presentation. I really appreciate the multi-year and multidisciplinary approach of the work that you're doing. I think it can be utilized across the school district. I think it's really important to model that. So I'm just really proud of the presentation and the work you've put in this evening. I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about the professional learning community and in continuing that work. What would that look like? Where did you start and where are you going in the year ahead?
So I am one of the teachers involved in that. And really what it came from was the first year that we started working within the CSIP, we realized we didn't really have any other contacts that were in fact alternative schools. While Charahoe has a tremendous amount of resources within our district, to find schools that matched ours, as it were, was very, very challenging. So we began the research process of trying to just find good evidence for things that worked well. And that really led us to blanket emailing the top 10 performing schools across the country. And in doing so, we developed some really rich connections. Of the 10 schools that I emailed, 7 of them got back to me. And of those 7, 3 have really turned into a fruitful partnership. One of the really nice things about doing this work during the pandemic was that we were all very well acquainted with Zoom. And that allowed us to speak to people both in California, Massachusetts was an identified school, a few schools in Rhode Island, and a school in Colorado as well. So that was the initial start of that. From there, we're trying to get everybody together to actually talk about some problems that are facing us as schools. One example was we were speaking about trying to lay out in a calendar project-based learning that is actually multi-year. It's really quite challenging because as 9th graders rise to 10th grade, everybody's at different points within that project, and how to unify in that one spot. So that's the kind of work that we're doing within there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And, I know that fear and anger is kind of the presiding values over our approach to education at times. And I don't want you to be penalized for doing great work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Well, I just want to say that I've worked on the CALA for 3 years and I've enjoyed every minute of it. And Lisa, you hit it right on. These teachers are amazing and they're just so they're all in on it, and this is important to them, and they work so hard, and it's showing. The kids are doing so much better and the school seems to be thriving. So good work.
Seems like they work so hard and then give all the credit to the students.
Yes, they
Exactly
do,
what
which
a
is
teacher would
right.
do, right?
A good
Exactly
teacher
what
would
a
do.
teacher would do.
So, but yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Nice job. So now we get the pleasure of approving the CSIP. So if there's no other discussion or questions, I'd like to take a vote. Those in favor of approving the CSIP? Thank you. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, school lunch program.
The next item on the agenda is school lunch program contract with Chartwells. I recommend approval of the school lunch program contract with Chartwells per the attached memo from Ned Draper. I concur with Ned that Chartwell staff have done an outstanding job during the extremely challenging years.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to recommend the approval of the school lunch program contract with Chartwells. I open this up to any questions or discussions with regards to the contract for either Mr. Draper or Superintendent Picard. I guess we can, no, there's no discussions or questions. I'll take that to a vote. Those in favor of approving this contract with Chartwells, please raise your hand. Any opposition? Nope. Abstention or recusal? None. Okay. D.
The next item is a high school graduation project. Principal Andrea Spaz and Assistant Principal Jean Brennan, along with many of our student advisory board members, are here to present this evening. This will replace the graduation portfolio. Andrea will explain how and when, but I do recommend approval of this.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. As you can see, I have quite the team with me here tonight. I'm Andrea Spaz. I'm the high school principal. It's my honor to be presenting to you all tonight about the great work that this team has done. And you'll be hearing from them directly because this has come directly from them in so many ways. So tonight we are presenting on our graduation project proposal. I do just want to give a quick acknowledgement to this incredible team. This is our student advisory board. This is the board that advises myself, Ms. Bradanini, our assistant principal, and Director Auth, our Charahoe Tech director. It's comprised of 8 incredible students who have given us a lot of great input and voice over the past year. And I have 4 members with me today. We have Caden Kelly, who is our 9th grade rep. Caden. We have Nathan Ballard, who is our communications rep. We have Reagan Tremblay, who is our SAB 11th grade rep and next year's SAB co-chair. We also have with us our 12th grade rep, Autumn Ligori Bills. And we also have our Charahoe Tech rep, Macy Dotson, with us. And that is our team. So we are excited to present to you tonight on our graduation project. So before we get started, you're going to hear from our students today, and they're going to talk to you about why make this shift, how did we arrive at this decision, what exactly does it look like, what does the graduation project look like, who has vetted this work, and where are we headed next. So I'm going to turn it over to Autumn, who's going to talk to you about why we are looking to make this shift.
Hi everyone. So as a senior, this work was really meaningful to me. I just presented my own graduation portfolio, and having gone through the experience, I can really see how our new project is going to be a lot more impactful on students and keep them a lot more engaged in creating a capstone of their learning. Students will be able to choose their own topic from their project based on the theme, what inspires you. And by choosing their own topic, these students are going to be a lot more motivated to create something that they're proud of, because their topic is going to be something that they care about and something that they're inspired by. So it's really going to be a lot more student driven. They're also going to be a lot more room for creativity compared to our current portfolio, which is a lot more structured and has a lot of like specific requirements and rules. They're going to be able to do a lot more creative work in areas that they're interested in. Also, our learner qualities are going to be demonstrated in a much more hands-on way, while students are, say, collaborating with their mentors or self-directing the products that they're creating. They're really going to be using their learner qualities in a real-world environment compared to trying to stretch a project that they did their freshman year and try to connect it somehow to the learner qualities. They're going to see how they're going to be used in real life.
So once we talked about why this shift needs to happen, we went to the how. And so this was a process that started right at the beginning of the year. And one thing that we knew that we needed to look at was our NEASC standards of accreditation and the requirement for vision of the graduate, where schools are asked to identify what we want students to walk away with and what we want them to be able to do when they graduate. Fortunately, Charahoe has the learner qualities that have been in place for quite some time. And so we were way ahead of many schools. You know, a team of us had actually attended a NEASC training for a few days, and we were actually the models for those schools. And so we were able to, meet and have some professional discussions, but also really showcase what we've done so far. So the next step, once we identified our vision of the graduate, reaffirmed our learner qualities, was to look at RIDE. And, are we going to be coming up against any of the RIDE standards and what's needed for graduation? Andrea spoke to a RIDE official a couple of times. And so we talked about the other RIDE options for the graduation proficiency. One is the portfolio, which is currently in place. Another is a capstone, which would require more of a product-based completion. And then what we settled on and what we talked about was more of the project, where there is still independent learning, there's still some field work, but it's an exhibition at the end where students are showcasing and presenting what they have found and what they've learned. So after consulting with RIDE, we took a sampling of 5 different senior project handbooks from area schools in Rhode Island and in Connecticut. And we had our student advisory board and we had our SIT team take a look at those different handbooks and actually identify the things that they liked, things that they didn't like. And so we customized for Charahoe the handbook that you guys have the draft of attached in this presentation. So once we created the draft handbook and we vetted that through quite a number of
different organizations, and that's going to be highlighted on in a slide later on. We came to the draft that we currently have, and here we are. We're presenting to you, and hopefully we are able to answer all of your questions.
So what does this look like? The main theme is what inspires you. That's what the whole project is around. And the 4 major components are the topic of study, fieldwork with a mentor, journal entries, and the presentation. The draft handbook linked here, which I'll pull up. There we go. The 4 components with the topic of study and research, that would be considering the theme, what inspires you, where students will deeply explore an academic interest, social service, a possible career, or a creative project. Students will submit a 1-page letter of intent for topic approval, and students will engage in research and fieldwork related to this topic. For the fieldwork, the requirements will be 15 hours of fieldwork, at least 10 of those being with a mentor or expert in the field. And for the journal entries, 4 journals will accompany the topic research and fieldwork experience. One of the journals will require research from informational resources. And lastly, for the presentation, the project presentation is the culminating experience that exhibits all the students have learned. Presentations must be at least 15 minutes long and highlight connections to learner qualities. Students are encouraged to get creative and consider demonstration and interactive showcases of their learning. And again, this will all relate back to what inspires you as the major theme.
We had a lot of people come together to outline our goals for this project and really help create what a lot of people help create our goal, including the faculty, the student advisory board, the school improvement team, student council, and even over 100 survey responses. It is all of these opinions from all of these groups have been taken into deep consideration by the people who finalize the plans. After reviewing the handbook, an overwhelming 70% of 113 responses agreed that they supported the change from our current graduation portfolio to the newly revised graduation project. And 26% were unsure, even considerably, that our project outline was a little bit wordy. So with deeper understanding, the people who understood it more agreed with it more.
Over 70% of the survey responses supported the 4 components of the project, so the topic of study, fieldwork, journals, and presentation.
And lastly, in the pie chart, we can see that 63.7% of the poll supported the idea of having a 1-day senior presentation day where all seniors present on the same day in May. And comments that were at the end of the presentation or at the survey were, based on what I've heard and read today, I love it. I think this change will bring with it a much more meaningful experience for our graduating students. I also love the idea and focus on finding what inspires you. I think this is something that will be meaningful for students. Meaningful.
Yes, the key term there being meaningful. And what was nice to see about that feedback was that that's why we did this work. We were getting feedback from our students that it's time to revamp and refresh our portfolio. We've been doing this for over a decade now. It's served its purpose. It really has. We're really proud of our portfolio. It's served us very well. There's a lot to be proud of there, but it's time for a little refresh and to revisit that. We don't want to become stagnant. We always want to be improving and bettering ourselves. And students said, how can we make this more meaningful and more embedded into who we are and what we're passionate about? So I feel like this team has done this work. So it was nice to see those words meaningful pop up time and time again in the comments, because that was why we're doing this work. We also just wanted to call your attention to some of the comments that were like what ifs, like some things that they wanted to bring to our attention. What about transportation in terms of the fieldwork experience? What about students who may lack transportation? And those are things we would make sure that we would account for. We would make sure that no student would not have the opportunity to get their fieldwork hours. We'd find ways to accommodate those needs. The other question was, do we have varied mentor experiences? And fortunately, we've done a lot of work here in Charo to connect with community partners. We actually have an ongoing document of community partners. So we would continue to consult with them to make sure students get a varied mentor experience. And then finally, fieldwork hours. That was a question. How do we land at just the right number? We went back and forth, 10 hours, 15, 20, and we landed at 15 with 10 of those hours being with a mentor. Because we wanted students to have some flexibility, but we also wanted that direct mentor time to really serve a purpose for them. So those were some of the questions that came up that we felt it was important for you to hear as well. But the next part is, where are we headed? What are our next steps? So our next step is to seek your approval, since we've done a lot of work vetting it with a lot of our key stakeholders here in the school system. We wanted to vet this through you to move forward. We would then update our academic requirements for graduation policy to reflect these changes. So obviously this would not take place for any students currently in the high school. This would be for incoming freshmen. So once we start a new process such as this, we would need to introduce it to the incoming freshmen so that it's fresh and new for them. And it would start there. And we would also like the opportunity to potentially pilot this with some upperclassmen and have them also present to incoming ninth graders in terms of their experiences as well. So those are our next steps. This is all about making the graduation project something that students are excited and passionate about. So they're really behind what they're producing. Thank you for your time.
I don't think we took.
I don't think there was a motion yet, no.
We didn't make a motion. Yeah, thank you.
Chair, make a motion to approve the high school graduation project.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the high school graduation project. Now I'll open up to any comments or questions you have for our students and teachers. Mr. Day? Oh, I thought you had your hand. Yeah.
I was curious, checklists and timelines. It's a lot of it submit to a Google site. Is this going to be typed to a Google site, or will they be faxed to a Google site?
Yep, it would be electronic. Students are used to using, Google Suite for many different documents, whether it's slides or Google Docs, and they're used to using the Google platform to upload their evidence of completion. So they would be, for example, their journals that they would complete would be done electronically, and they would be uploaded to the Google site for completion.
I'm not a great fan of all this electronic stuff. So if I understand you, these students would actually be required to do just what Donna's doing, write something down, and then transfer it to them.
Yep, type it through into a Google. So type it into a Google document, and then that can be linked to the Google site.
Well, I guess that's my biggest concern, that we are not allowing students from the kindergarten grade up to learn how to write and present good penmanship and all the other things that they're really going to need in future endeavors. We're relying too much on the electronic stuff. You don't need to know how to spell, because you can get spell check on your computer. You don't need to know how to add, because there's just too much this electronic stuff out there and not enough of this with the students in today's world and going forward. That is my personal opinion. I don't really need to get into a debate about it, but this is one reason why I didn't like your answer. The answer is legit to a lot of people that believe that students don't need to learn how to spell, write, and a lot of other things that we learned and you people learned to make yourself successful in this world, because you didn't have all them computers when you were going to school and getting the position you're at.
So I do have a student that does want to respond. I do just want to say quickly that Right now, our students, the predominant way that they produce work is through the MacBook. Each has their own device, and they're very skilled and proficient in using the device. Any student who may need paper and pencil accommodation would absolutely have access to that as well. Go ahead, Reagan.
I was just going to touch on this and say I do believe it's important to know how to read and write on paper. And in kindergarten and elementary school, it's obviously very important. But this is the way we're learning now, and it's not taking away from the fact that we need to know how to write, and that we still do it. Like, we do have to use our computers a lot of the day. But then even in English class, for my AP Lang class, we have to write out essays by hand still. It's not everything is still electronic. Just this presentation, I think it would be easier online. Like, personally, I feel like it's a good way to learn, and it's going to be the rest of our lives. This is the new world, and it'll take some getting used to for a lot of people, but it's vital for us to know how to do this, because that's what's going to be happening for our future careers. We're going to have to know how to do this stuff. So it's good for us to start early. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna had, and then Linda. Donna?
Yeah, and one of the things that's really great, I just want to plug the Google sites, because it's so easy to share information and comment and edit and everything. But what I really wanted to say is this was a huge undertaking of a project, and you all did it very, very well. Thank you for doing this. And I would like to suggest that when you do get a couple of models that you're going to present to the incoming freshmen, present us with one of the final presentations. I would love to see one of these presentations. I think it's a great idea. I think it is more relevant and meaningful. I did have one little wordmanship comment on one of the criteria. That's all. That, look at the criteria a little closer. That's all. But good job, guys. Really good job. Thank you.
Ms. McAllister?
Yes, I'm thoroughly in favor of this approach to senior project. I think it's a wonderful experience for you all to get into your own interests and work towards experiential activities that will help you in your career path or your life path, let's put it that way. The one thing from my own personal understanding is in your surveys, there were some no responses. And if we could just know a few of the reasons why maybe some students weren't for this.
So when you looked at the pie charts, for example, I just want to call your attention, for example, to this one. The blue is yes, that's 71.7%. The orange is unsure. We wanted to put that unsure category there just in case someone didn't feel that they could say yes or no. And it did require them to really go through our handbook, which there contains a lot of information. So for anyone who maybe did not invest the time into that, we wanted to give that category. So that's why you see that unsure amount. For those that answered no, it was either one or two individuals, and there was nothing too specific provided there, other than that they liked the current model, and then some of those other comments I had talked about, making sure that those mentorship opportunities existed for all.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, Ms. Beers?
Yeah, I just want to applaud all of your work and your presentation, the thoughtfulness that you put into this this evening. I also want to express my thanks for the work that you're doing that doesn't directly benefit you, but it's for the community, it's for the future generations. And that is modeling for our community what that looks like. And I'm humbled and honored to learn from you this evening. So thank you, everyone.
I just want to say thank you for saying that, because none of the students up here before you will benefit directly from this.
Right. They're thinking of future generations, and they're thinking of the community as a whole.
Yeah, they're paying it forward, and that's what they're thinking about. They're thinking about what they would want their siblings, their friends, incoming students, the future of Charahoe, what they would want for them. Yeah, thank you for saying
Those are values that we applaud and we uphold.
Yes, that's awesome. Any other?
Excellent job, everyone. Nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I guess now it's our time to give them the green light to go ahead with this great project moving forward. So I'm going to ask you guys to take it to a vote. So those in favor of the project moving forward? And those opposed? Yep, there's not, there was unanimous. We did make a motion. Yeah, we did. Thank you, Donna. Thanks. Okay, so next one.
The next item is agreement with Rhode Island Student Assistance Services. I recommend approval of the agreement with RISAS for the Student Assistance Program, Project Success Substance Abuse Prevention from July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second by Mr. LaGrory, to approve the agreement with Rhode Island Student Assistance Services for the calendar, well, for the year of July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. So for the next school year. Any discussion, questions about this agreement? No? Okay, I'll take it to a vote. Those in favor of the agreement? And any opposition, recusals, abstentions? And that was unanimous. Thank you.
The next item F is the memorandum of understanding between the Charahoe Regional School District and the town of Richmond pertaining to the funding for a school resource officer. I recommend approval of the memorandum of understanding between the Charahoe Regional School District and town of Richmond pertaining to the funding for a school resource officer for the 2022-2023 school year.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan, a second by Mr. LaGrory to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Charahoe Regional School District and the town of Richmond pertaining to the funding of our SRO. I'll open this for discussion questions. Mr. Day, you have your hand raised.
Yes, according to our agreement, superintendent of the school shall evaluate performance and have a copy to the school committee. Did I miss this evaluation somewhere along the line?
A copy of the, if it didn't get through, I will submit it. My apologies. It's been completed.
Yes, Mr. Day.
No, I'm gonna have a problem voting for this without the evaluation.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Superintendent Picard, the evaluation's been completed, you said?
Correct.
Was there anything untoward or something, anything critical within there that the school committee should know?
No, the reminders around things that were brought up around the insurance of the attendance, 15 minutes prior to school, 15 minutes at dismissal time, and then ensuring that we're tracking the attendance.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? I guess I'll take that to a vote. Those in favor of the MOU between the Charahoe Regional School District and the town of Richmond pertaining to the funding of a school resource officer? Thank you. Those opposed? Mr. Day? Any recusals or abstentions? No. Thank you very much. That passes. Okay. You want me to make this? Yeah, okay. No, you can. Okay, I'd like to recommend the approval of Superintendent Gina Picard's contract.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Mr. Callahan and a second by Mr. LaGrory to approve Superintendent Gina Picard's contract for the 2022 to 2025 school years. Open this up to discussion. Anybody have any comments? Yes, Mr. Callahan.
Chair, I'd like to provide you a little bit of context. There's 36 districts, I believe. 3 of them have part-time superintendents. The rest are full-time. Of those, I was only able to find out 24 of the salaries. So I'm only basing this on 24 in Rhode Island. Top salary was $210,000. That was in Providence. No surprise there. The average salary was $172,000. Anybody want to guess where Superintendent Picard's salary was? It was dead last. She was the lowest paid superintendent. There were a significant number of superintendents on that list who had less experience than her. And definitely a number of superintendents who were dealing with schools that lacked the complexity of Charahoe. So we are getting a steal, and we thank you for that, Superintendent Picard. In addition to that, Superintendent Picard's contract was the only one that was at 2 years. Every other inquiry made showed that 100% of the superintendents were at a 3 year. So I fully support adjusting this accordingly. Just wanted to provide some
No,
context.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other? I think. So those in favor of supporting the Superintendent Picard's contract for the term spanning July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025, with an annual salary for the 22-23 school year at $159,013. Those in favor? And that's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
The next item on the agenda is the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. Ned will provide an overview of the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund and alternative funding options for drinking water-related projects. We are only on a list approved to apply for this funding at this point, but any actual funding has more steps to go through, so no action is needed at this time. We just want to provide you with an overview.
Mr. Draper?
Yes. Each year, the state revolving funds, one in drinking water, one in basically stormwater. An outreach is conducted where they allow us to get on the list for potential funding of projects. In order to get on that list, you have to present through an engineer's verification that you have the need, that these projects are reasonable based on a review that they have done. We were fortunate in that Northeast Water Solution is familiar with our systems. They currently serve our systems. They're
Nick, can you use the microphone?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Just to recap, the state provides an outreach each year whereby we are able to apply for state revolving funds for water projects and stormwater projects that affect the drinking water quality of various public operations, as well as in some cases there's some privates and semi-privates, but specifically we're dealing with publics. We're fortunate in that Northeast Water Solutions, which is our provider, is very familiar with the process. They had actually conducted a survey 4 or 5 years ago. That survey was suitable to give us the information we needed for this application. We walked through a few technical questions that we had with Carlene Newman, who's listed on there. And then we submitted our paperwork, which you have in your packet, and all of those projects were accepted onto the list. This list is a first step, as Superintendent Picard mentioned. What happens from here is we'll go through our budget deliberation process next year in FY24. These wouldn't be eligible really for funding until then, realistically speaking. Then in FY24, we'll determine if we want to go forward with any of those projects. Another thing this allows us to do is we can pursue housing aid if we complete our stage 2 and that's behind us. If for some reason stage 2 isn't completed, this gives us another avenue to tackle some of these. So an example that we run into particularly this year is emergency generators. We've had a few hiccups with the generators coming on, depending on a component or two. So this will be an opportunity to modernize some of that infrastructure. Likewise, we have here on the campus, we have a couple of separate systems, and we might have an opportunity to consolidate those. So at this point in time, we're on the list. It gives us some opportunities. It's just under $1 million worth of projects. And it puts us in good stead for FY24 to have different options to pay for those capital projects.
Any questions for Mr. Draper? Yes, Mr. Day.
Ned, I noticed you got the 2 elementary schools in Hopkinton and the Charahoe campus. Is there a priority here, or is this one of these situations where they're going to look at this campus and the 2 elementary schools and say, this is what we're gonna help you out with, or will we have to pick and choose?
So my understanding is the list is prioritized on their end based on their assessment of need. However, once you're on the list, whether you're number 50 or number 1, you're still on the list for funding, and they'll put you in the funding pool if we apply, assuming we meet all the requirements, all the technical requirements.
No, it's just people upstate want to help us. I get a little nervous.
Understood. And my understanding is they really went the extra effort for outreach because of the federal funding that's also incorporated into this. So for instance would be, let's say there's a project that's $200,000. The revolving fund can allow up to 20 years, and I believe it's up to $100,000 in threshold funding that maybe the federal government would pick up. So the first 100 would be covered by federal funds, not need to be repaid. The next 100 would be spread over 20 years, so $5,000 a year. So for instance, if we didn't choose to do housing aid or something disrupted it, $5,000 is a pretty reasonable amount that we could layer into our funding. But yeah, agreed. We've got to watch the technical details.
Consent agenda? Yeah, that's it. So, there's no need for vote. No, this is just informational. So now we're into consent agenda items. Anything needs to be pulled? No?
Minutes.
Okay.
Does anybody need
Well,
the
if you want to
minutes?
pull something, you can.
No.
No? Okay.
Does anybody want to pull the minutes if they're not?
You don't have to.
Okay, all right. Well, let me, excuse me, let me just, because since Craig is not
Yeah.
here, let me for now publicly acknowledge 2 donations and thank the donors. Scott Amaro from Carolina, Rhode Island, of 4 stage monitors valued at $400 to the drama program. And the second donation was from Gotham Greens in Providence, Rhode Island, of 144 hydroponic seedlings valued at $250 each for a total of $360, which was given to Richmond School Greenhouse Project. Thank you.
Ms. Chambers. Okay, so
Make motion to accept the remainder.
Second.
it's been a motion and a second to accept the remainder of the consent agenda items. Those in favor? Any opposition, recusals, or? Oh, that was unanimous. Thank you. And now we're on to reports from the superintendent.
Subcommittee reports. Our Special Education Advisory Committee met on May 19th, 2022. Enclosed is a copy of the approved minutes of January 20th, 2022. Our kindergarten registration update to date. We have Ashway at 14, Charlestown at 22, Hope Valley at 25, and Richmond at 44. We had our first ever AP commitment recognition. Charahoe Hope was 1 out of 5 districts in the state recognized last Wednesday at the State House. Chair Linda Lyle, along with 2 students and Dana Hall, went to the State House to receive the recognition. So congratulations to our whole team and all of our students for getting that recognition. Nice job. We also, we also were able to race our Green Power electric car. That happened last Friday. And there it is right there.
It has on TV and everything too.
Correct.
Yes.
The students designed, built, and raced this electric car. This challenge actually began in 1999 in the United Kingdom. So it was made possible through a grant we partnered with EWG by the Rhode Island Museum Foundation. And we were really excited. The kids loved it. And it was actually the Green Power Ed supplied teams with the car building kit as well. So it was a nice job. Fun had for all. It was a beautiful day on Friday. It was supposed to actually be Thursday. Other districts went on Thursday. Our team was concerned because of the rain and the wetness. So they opted for the Friday.
Mr. Day has a comment, sir.
I had the pleasure of going over there and watching some of our students run the car around the track. very well attended. There was about 30 or so students involved over there with their T-shirts from drafting to, well, I forget the exact, but there was a good 30 students over there all involved in it. A number of them got a chance to drive the car around the track over there at Fortin Integrat. I watched them change the batteries and this and that. I had to go. I went home mad because they wouldn't let me drive it. But they were doing 17 miles an hour while I was over there.
I think
so
you could have handled
it was
that.
it was good to see the activities over there that day, and I really enjoyed myself.
Nice. Thank you for saying that. We also have the district yard sale. The annual yard sale will be held on Friday, June 24th, with district-wide government agencies and nonprofits given first option. A list of items for sale will be included in your June packet. We have coming events on May 25th. Underclassmen Awards Night is 6 to 9 p.m. in the middle school auditorium. On May 27th, our high school talent show, 5 to 9 p.m. at the middle school auditorium. May 30th, there's no school for students and staff for Memorial Day. June 1st, Richmond School Outdoor Chorus Concert, 5:30 to 6:30 at the school soccer field. On June 3rd, class of 2022 senior prom, 5 to 11 at the Crown Plaza. June 3rd, Richmond School Talent Show, grade 3 and 4, 6 to 8 p.m. in the cafeteria. June 6th is the last instructional day for seniors. It's also our National Junior Honor Society ceremony for our middle school students at 6 to 8:30 at the middle school auditorium. On June 8th, Senior Awards Night, 6 to 9 at the middle school auditorium. On June 10th is our class of 22 graduation at the Ryan Center. I'm happy to inform you of its unlimited guests, so students can be as many as they want, which is very nice to happen. So feel free to invite who you need to. And we have June 14th is our Hope Valley School Field Day.
Thank you. This is the time in our agenda. The school committee requests for future agenda items or legal opinions. Okay, Mr. Abbott.
Yes, I'd like the chair host school to contact the Hopkinton Town Council regarding the status of the 1904 building, which is derelict and in very bad repair and presents a danger to the Ashaway School that's currently in use. So I'd like the town council to tell us what their plan is for that building, because it's not in the budget. There's no money in the proposed budget to tear it down, and this is just dragged on too long.
So you just want some information from the town council about what their
Yeah,
plans are?
what are they
Okay.
gonna do? I mean,
Okay,
it's acknowledged that it's a safety hazard.
thank you. Mr. Day?
Lisa,
you had your hand up.
It might
Thank
be
you.
the same thing. So we had a community member, right, come to us to ask us to more deeply discuss and explore bullying. If we could have that for the June meeting before we retire for into more of a summer schedule. And if specifically bullying such a broad topic, there's our bullying policy, there's bullying outcomes, there's reporting. If you, Chair, could reach out to determine specifically what we should be investigating and then put that on the agenda.
Okay. If you have, and any of you have any suggestions, I appreciate it, Mr. Day.
This is a request of the superintendent. Been a long time complaint of mine, and I finally decided to ask you on behalf of the Charahoe School District to draft a letter to the Wesley Sun requesting them to include unified sports teams in the schedules that they print daily in the newspaper. State of Interscholastic Leagues has 30 approved sports, and unified basketball in the springtime and volleyball in the summertime, in the fall is those two of those sports. And the Wesley Sun will put in the football, the tennis, the field hockey, and every other sport that Charahoe participates in on any particular given day. But I have never seen the Wesley Sun list the unified sporting events we have at Charahoe, and there are there's like 28 schools in the state of Rhode Island that participate in the unified sports. So it's not some outlandish backwoods Charahoe thing. It's well run and well organized, and the Wesley Sun should be highlighting the scheduled events. So if you could draft something, it'd make me feel a little bit better. And that's not a hard thing to do.
Sir? Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Those in favor? I don't think there's any discussion on that. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you.
Nice job.
I was hoping the lady would say-